This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
Of madness, the nerdy Manroom with your host Hassel and Monster. How you doing, Monster?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm trying to survive the rain up here. It started raining today and it's supposed to rain for like the next 3 or 4 straight, and it just stopped raining about 2 days ago.
Well, yeah, that was pretty hard this morning, but it's been dry before that, which we were needing it. But yeah, I don't know about you, Monster. I'm pretty excited this week. I mean, it's Halloween weekend's on the horizon. It's a huge weekend for sports here in Georgia. I mean, we got the Georgia-Florida game, of course, Go Dogs, this Saturday, and then we got game 3, 4, and 5, and we're stopping at 5 because the Atlanta Braves are going to win the next 3 to sweep the World Series up, or wrap it up, so to speak.
So how did that happen? How did that happen that the scores almost completely flipped from the first game to the second when it was 6-2 and then 2-7?
We had a complete meltdown in like the second or third inning. I forget which it was, but we had a complete meltdown in that second or third inning, and we got what is considered the best infield in professional baseball, and they just shit the bed during this inning, and just no one could catch nothing, no one could throw anything, and Max Fried, he has been an ace and a beauty all year long, and he has not played well in the postseason. He didn't do very well against the Dodgers either, but our bullpen, they do really well, and we lost our ace in game 1, but we're gonna battle back, and because the Macho Man always says, "Cream rises to the top, brother, and they're gonna do it." Yeah.
And I got to give you props on your dressing up for Halloween episode. This is our last October episode, so instead of dressing up, I actually let me change my camera angle a little bit.
You can see it. I actually did. I like that.
Yeah, I did the Pink Coat for Cancer. It was a Cape Girardeau, Missouri Comic Con exclusive shirt this year. Partnered up with St. Francis Healthcare and had to support it for supporting the breast cancer awareness, but also it was Power Rangers, and I thought it would fit in well since we are doing toys this week.
Well, I mean, anytime you can wear a crown and sequins, I'm just saying, if you got an excuse, do it, baby. I mean,
if you got an excuse,
make you
got
it on hand. Man, I'm not gonna lie, huh?
If you got an excuse and you have it on hand.
Hey, exactly. And I bought this crown from Bulletproof Studios. You can find them on Instagram. They do a lot of really good props and stuff. They have a better version out now than this version here. This is like their G1 version, so to speak. But yeah, they got a better version now that I may have to invest in for much longer.
And speaking of that prop you got there, and talking about this week is a collectible show, and as you can see, I've changed my background. This is actually still a filtered background, but this is actually a picture of a part of my collection. This is actually what I look at to the very right of where I'm sitting right now. That's my right wall against in my office area. That's all my Masterpiece Transformers and several Power Ranger shells, and I see a bunch of your colors behind you. And just so everybody knows, there will be a section in later where we've done some pre-recorded videos of our collection, and we'll shout that out to you when we get ready to show it to you. But we'll include that this week as well.
Yeah, I felt like I had to move. We're going to be at the Nerdy Man Room, and we're going to showcase our collectibles this week. I had to come live from the Man Room this week. I mean, Sir Freddie's hanging above me, and he's watching out to make sure I don't goof up this week. So I think we're going to be good.
Yeah, and I know you have a specific room. Mine is kind of spread all over the place, and you'll see that from the video when we get to it. But behind me is an actual picture of what's to the right of me. I just can't turn my entire desk because I do have another one in here for when the kids doing school from home, and couldn't rearrange everything. But I wanted to get this up in the background, and we may keep this one or change a few up later. But with that, I think we got a lot of news stuff as well. So if you want to kick us into some news, I know you got a lot of notes and stuff from this week, and I got a few. But
Yeah, it's been a pretty big week for nerd news. I mean, we got the return of Hayden Christensen in the Ahsoka show for Disney Plus. I mean, that is major, and he is returning as Anakin Skywalker, not Vader. So we don't know yet if it's flashbacks or do we finally get the Anakin Skywalker Force Ghost with a little bit of, I sought redemption and, and you stay off the great Jedi path, Ahsoka. Is that what we get in this? I mean, I'm pretty kind of excited about this. I'm not gonna lie.
I am as well. I wish there was more info on what it's going to be, because I thought the Ahsoka show was going to be kind of around the same time frame as the Mandalorian. But then I've seen other things like you hinted at. Is this some repeat from before? Is this some prequel stuff, sort of thing? So I'm curious to see where they go with it. I'm excited to
I
see it.
believe it is around time frame in the Mandalorian, but I'm just curious. Is all the Hayden Christensen's like mental flashbacks or
Yeah, and
the
I think
Clone
that's what I
Wars
was.
or
Yeah, and I may have misspoke. That's kind of what I was getting at. Is this a flashback of him, or is this his ghost, or is this something? I'm excited to see. I'm just not sure how long it's going to be before we see it. Right? I mean, we've got a ways to go. So, and I know he's divisive, and the fandom is a little more on his side now than it was when the prequels first came out. But at this point, the
yeah, he
prequels are
caught
so
a
much
great
better
deal of
than the
backlash
sequels.
in
So
episode 2. But if he didn't win you over with episode 3, I mean, say what you want to about the prequels, and I will shit all over Jar Jar Binks to death. However, he had started bouncing back with episode 2 a little. Episode 3, I don't care what you say. That's a top 5 Star Wars movie right there. I don't care. I mean, it's to me, it is close to Empire, and Empire is my favorite.
yeah,
It
it
has
was
that
a good one.
tone, and yeah. We got to
I
get
think
better
the
movie news.
yeah.
We
So what
got
else we got going on?
Sandman and Lizards was finally confirmed for Spider-Man No Way Home. We haven't had any steals yet. I mean, they've released a ton more steals of Dr. Octopus, Peter Parker, a few other things, here or there. But they have officially confirmed that Sandman from the Raimiverse and the Lizard from, the Amazing Spider-Man verse, they are in this movie.
Yeah, so far they've confirmed 5 villains, and the thought has always been is it Sinister Six. So I'm curious to see who's going to be that sixth one. For spoilers for those of you who have not seen Venom, the cameo at the end where he's in the MCU universe, is he going to be the sixth, or was that just a cameo for that, and then we're going to ignore it from now on and just say, oh, that was just a quick thing to?
Well, they're working towards a Morbius and a Craven movie, but I just feel like they have to be introduced in their own movie before you sling them into the Sinister Six, because you got to have a driving reason for being there. And Venom,
Well, and you've
I
already
suppose they gave it to him,
and you've already had the Vulture introduced. You've had Rhino introduced, so you can easily grab one of those. They just have not said who it is yet. So,
Well, I believe Vulture is supposed to be in this. It's yet to be confirmed, but I think they have. Michael Keaton was spotted supposedly on set.
yeah, he's the one. I haven't seen him or Rhino confirmed. I've seen Goblin. I've seen Ock, Electro, of course, and then Sandman and Lizard. And after that, they haven't said who's the sixth one, or if there's going to be more. I guess we'll see. Come December, which isn't very far away at this point.
There was a few stills released this week of the Armor Wars show. There's a iron or war tank, so to speak, suit. It's pretty much like War Machine's Hulkbuster. It looks pretty legit. I mean, if they were to make this into $100 figure, I would probably be very guilty of buying it.
I saw the news of that. I didn't get a chance to look at the picture. It came across my news feed as I was getting ready to go into a meeting for work. So, missed that a little bit, but I did see it. I just don't know enough about it at the moment.
Yeah, they've been very, very spotty with details, so to speak, of this. But I mean, it did drop on the gram. I seen it, and I mean, it was pretty cool little thing there. We've got well, I mean, next year is Ghost Rider's 50th anniversary, and they're already starting to pump up the hype machine and the promo. The big machine is getting behind him, so to speak, for the first time in quite a long while. We're gonna have a year of vengeance, and they finally announced today that there will be a new ongoing Ghost Rider title along with a miniseries, but the ongoing is around Johnny Blaze.
Yeah, and I saw that it's gonna. I'm curious. Is this a soft reboot, or is this someone messing with him? Because the synopsis I've read so far is he's a mechanic. He's got a wife and 2 kids or something, and he's having all these nightmares and dreams about some demon or something that haunts him. And we all know, of course, it's the writer. But is this someone messing with him, or is this a soft reboot? And we're saying, okay, nothing that's happened before has happened, or I'm curious how it's going to go, but it does sound interesting. And the art looks fantastic from what I've seen so far.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm assuming they're going the route of once he relinquished the King of Hell crown, to Mephisto, that maybe it's part of their bargain or deal or whatever, and it's probably gonna go awry. I mean, it better be Roxanne as his wife. I know this. 'Cause if not, I'm gonna be legit pissed. And him and Roxanne supposedly had some kids at one point. That kind of was a delusion or whatever from Mephisto. So it'll be interesting to see is this is a play on that, and I kind of love to see Zarthos return here. I mean, that's a character that they just have not done anything with since the '90s.
Wouldn't mind seeing that, and I wouldn't mind seeing it, especially if it's going to be in current times. Are we going to get to a Danny Ketch, showing up and hopefully going back to being a writer versus that spirit of corruption, which didn't do much for me in the last run.
Well, in the promo that one of the ones I've seen is it shows various riders, and there is old school '90s Ketch on there, along with 2 different versions of Johnny Blaze. Then you got, of course, your original Ghost Rider on the horse, and
Robbie Reyes,
Jones, which apparently Alejandro Jones died in the King in Black. I was unaware of this because I haven't read King in Black, but she is the promo for that.
I believe it was in one of the tie-ins. I read the King in Black, but I didn't read all the tie-ins. They do far too many of those for me to keep up with the one-shots and tie-ins on them, so I go for the main story.
Yeah.
But since you brought up 50th anniversary of Ghost Rider, this year is actually the 55th anniversary of Star Trek, and History Channel starting off next Friday, I believe it is, on November 5th. They're going to do a 10-part docu-series about Star Trek, talking about different chapters in the series history. Like you'll have some episodes on Next Generation, some on the original crew. They're going to focus on the animated series they've done, as well as the current animated series they're doing, like the Lower Decks, which is, if you're not watching that, that's actually a very hilarious adult-themed Star Trek cartoon. But yeah, they're going into that.
Is that the one that's on Comedy Central, I believe?
It's running. I get it on Paramount Plus, which used to be CBS All Access, so it's streaming. But I think they're going to hit on the Picard series and Discovery as well, which are also running on those. And it's almost time for a new season of both of those to come up as well.
Sounds pretty legit. I mean, I'm more of a Wars man than a Trekkie myself, but I mean, I can respect the new generation stuff. I did enjoy some of those episodes growing up, and even the movies, the new generation movies. I did kind of enjoy those.
I actually enjoy most of the Star Trek stuff. It differentiates enough from Star Wars for me to enjoy it, because where Star Wars is a action sci-fi film, Star Trek is an adventure, because it's all about discovery and travel and meeting new cultures and stuff. I mean, you get some battles in there, but it's few and far between, as opposed to Star Wars is an intergalactic civil war for the entire thing, right?
While we're kind of in the area of animation, did you see the trailer for the second half of Masters of the Universe?
I did, and was extremely excited. It looks much better than the first half to me. The first half I felt was kind of lackluster, especially when you're talking about the He-Man series and your 2 major characters are out of it for all but 2 episodes. But in this one, not only do you get those major characters back, you also get a lot of others. If you watch the trailer and look for surprises, you see Buzz Off, you see Fisto, who was actually in some of the first episodes, but I saw a few others too. Ram Man was in it. I don't remember seeing like Mechanic or Stratos, but I'm sure if they're bringing all these others out, they're probably in there somewhere.
They have to be. I mean, they're probably saving them their scene for a surprise, so to speak, not wanting to spoil everything in the trailer, but you do get the vibe that you get a great deal of He-Man, the title character, and Skeletor.
I'm not necessarily sold on that Savage version of He-Man, but I do like the fact that how they played that into that, because if you've watched the preview, you've already seen it. Again, spoilers if you haven't seen it, skip ahead a couple of minutes, but Prince Adam says that the sword is really just the conduit. I'm what creates the power or draws the power in, and then he does the whole by the power of Grayskull and turns into the Savage
That
He-Man.
was
So I guess
interesting. That's almost the Hal Jordan, embodiment of wheel deal. I kind of like that.
Yeah, it's like that's the full power of He-Man, and he just kind of focuses it through the sword, and it gives him the ability to refine it to what it is. So I guess without that, he's just a extremely powerful, mindless, hulking being, because that's what it looked like he was. But it'd be interesting to see how it goes, and it looks very good. I think that kicks off on the 23rd of November.
Yeah, the 23rd of November. So around Thanksgiving time, while we're sitting there stuffing our fat faces with, turkey dressing and things of this nature, we got something to let and watch. At least 6 episodes. So I mean, that's pretty something to be stoked about.
Yeah, and since this episode is a lot about the toys and the collectibles, and He-Man was one of those pivotal ones from the '80s. Some of the other news that's out there, I know you didn't get a chance to watch it, but the Hasbro PulseCon event this past weekend, I did sit there and watch both days of it. That's kind of one of the reasons I even took off work. A lot of reveals. They had a Power Rangers Lightning Collection panel. Few good reveals. They've got this new Zord project. I will say that I think the Legacy Zords that Bandai did look a little bit better at this point, but still very early renders of that. Transformers panel. They started a new line called Generations Legacy that's taking the place of the War for Cybertron, and it's basically saying every timeline of Transformers, we're going to combine them into one and say, okay, here's a crossover between them. So you'll have characters from different periods of time and different shows crossing over together. And so you may have your Generation 1 Skids, but you've got your Transformers Prime RC, with them. And the storyline kind of goes in that direction. And there may be a cartoon related to that one, just like the Cybertron one was. Let's see, what else do they have?
Pretty interesting if you kind of had
it looks,
I'm assuming a multiverse type of Transformers.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it is. And it sounds interesting. Now, I will say that looking at the toys, they look like they took a step back on quality, whereas the War for Cybertron line, the Siege, the Earthrise Kingdom, all those were kind of solid looking. These are a little more hollowed, probably trying to cut some costs and save a little bit of money. But
yeah, I'm sure some of it is remolding and painting versus.
Yeah, there's a lot of that, and then there's a lot of stuff like they did a Generation 2 Optimus Prime, the Laser Optimus Prime, where he was a tanker truck. And while I like that original Generation 2 look, this one looks very cheaply made in comparison. So compared to what they were making, it looks like a step backwards. But I don't have any in hand, so I guess we'll see when we get to see some.
Well, you almost know they're going to sneak the Armada into there, because that was big in the 2000s.
I don't know if it's Armada or if it's the Cybertron series where they had the 3 crossover parts that were in Cartoon Network. But they had a Metroplex from that who looks different from the Generation 1 Metroplex, and that's going to be the first Titan they do from what all the rumors are. So more to come on that, but also looking at what was in the there wasn't a lot of Star Wars announcements for new figures other than a few of the Mandalorian, the Cobb Vanth, and who was the other one? Oh, the Boba Fett before, when he first reappears in Mandalorian before he has his armor back. Big news for Star Wars, though, was the HasLab with the Rancor Beast. I looked at it yesterday. It said about 3,700 backers out of 10,000, I think, was what was needed. So coming along pretty good, and that's a massive
I almost feel like they're going to probably cheat the fans on that, though, just because they know that the Star Wars fans will back this, and that's their first Star Wars, HasLab deal. So I don't feel like they're going to feel like they need to go the extra mile of that like they did with Galactus.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. And that wasn't the only HasLab. G.I. Joe also announced one at the same time with a Sky Striker and the 3.75 inch, which that jet looks amazing. The 3.75 inch.
Though.
Well, they're going back to the original design. They have the O-rings, they have the thumbs and stuff that used to. That's the first thing that would ever break off, and they've remolded some of that with better grade plastic to last longer. And the O-rings are designed to last twice as long, but. They look very much like the original, but the nice thing is if you have the 25th anniversary, any of those figures, which are the same size, would actually fit in that. But I couldn't go in. I have almost all of the 25th anniversary ones, but I just could not go into it for the price tag. It was what, $350 something.
It looks really nice. The jet itself looks great. I just feel like they needed to put the 25th anniversary attention to details 3 3/4 with that. To make it worth it to me. Had you put those same figures in the 25th anniversary style where they put so much incredible attention to detail, and that whole line. I mean, I have them all as well.
Oh yeah,
They're amazing. They hold up today. I mean, hell, we're at what 35th anniversary now, or so, or a little better.
yeah, getting close to 35. Yeah.
So I mean, we're 10 years past when these come out at least, and these still look really great today.
Now, speaking of them, we are 10 years past that 25th anniversary, and their 6-inch line, the classified, which was they're amazingly well done. A lot of scarce news in the past, but I'll tell you what, out of all the panels that they had at the PulseCon, G.I. Joe was the one that showed out with their classified line and the reveals they did and how many they did. I know you were a big fan of seeing the Bat, and they've got 2 versions of the Bat, the regular and the Python Patrol. The Python Patrol and Tiger Force are the Target exclusives this year, and I've noticed too that Target has somewhat fixed their issues. Like the Target pre-orders are still up. None of them have sold out yet.
Major props on that right there. When you alerted me, I was at work. You alerted me to the fact that there was going to be a Python Patrol and the Viper version, the Pit Viper, and the Python Patrol, and they were Target exclusive. I was like, fuck my life, I'm not getting these. And just like with the barbecue, they were spot on. I mean, it was within a few minutes. I mean, they were supposed to drop at a certain time, 1 o'clock, I believe it was. They wasn't there at 1, but within about 1:05 or so, one dropped, and then I seen another one when I scrolled down, and they were in stock, and they did legit, no glitches, no out of stock. 30 seconds after, they did a good job. I mean, I was very pleased, and I secured a Viper and a Bat, so I'm really happy about that.
And all the figures they revealed were great. I'm not going to go into every figure that was revealed because there was a lot of reveals over the weekend for a lot of stuff. But they were really spot on with a lot of them. They looked really great. They were easy to get. I've ordered a few myself. Spirit's one of my top 10 Joes, and I was able to get 2 of him, one in the box and one to open. And they did a good job. And I will say that out of all the panels, that G.I. Joe was not only the most showing out, when I guess is the best way I could say it, for what they were revealing, but they were also the most passionate about what they were revealing. They were really excited about it. Probably the only ones that could compete with them is Marvel Legends, but they do that on a weekly basis. You always see something coming from them, and they're always on their ball.
Joe's have actually released more news since the con. I mean, they actually have a list of things that's coming out before the things they announced at the con. Like, I've seen Zaymont and Tomax has been finally announced. There's a few others.
So Hasbro had another event that was yesterday evening. It was on 1027 because their physical address in the city and street they're in is actually 1027. So they're like, we're going to do a special stream there, and they actually took you in the building, walked you through their Hall of Fame and their memory lane hallway and stuff, and showed actually all the offices that different teams work out of. And even on there, they announced 2 more GI Joes. They've got a Cobra Officer that just came out last night for pre-order, and then an Alley Viper, which looks amazing, especially the deco they did on that Alley Viper.
The Crimson Guard was announced as well.
Yeah, so they've got a lot of stuff coming out, and they're proud of their stuff, and they really went the distance on theirs, and Marvel did as well. Marvel didn't have as many pre-orders go up, but I mean, they're throwing stuff out almost every week for their stuff, so I can kind of understand it. But
yeah, I mean, let's be honest with it. That Mr. Sinister in the VHS box from the animated cell shading. I wasn't sold on the Wolverine and Jubilee other than the packaging. I was like, this is very nostalgic. Sinister though, dude, it was amazing. Very, very nice.
They've also said along with that, they actually have a Jean and Storm that are coming up out of that set as well. And they said that you will get all the core X-Men as long as that line keeps running, as long as it sells well. And they've already announced those 2. And then they say that the rumor is that they're doing Morph as one of the next ones as well, just because he was a Toon-only character for the most part. And no word on when that'll come out, but they've kind of hinted around to that pretty well. And then, the rest of their news was kind of just a few reveals, but nothing that's coming out right now.
Yeah, the Morph is definitely one that the fans have been clamoring for quite a long time. We've got a few versions of the Morph from the Exiles and the Age of Apocalypse and whatnot, but we've never got that Morph other than the Toy Biz version.
Yes.
They done like one figure, and he was not very good, but
So speaking of some of these Hasbro reveals and stuff, you said that there was something new from Mattel for their because I saw they extended their license for was it another 3 or 5 years with WWE this past week, and I
Yeah,
think they
today
had
was
some
actually
announcements.
day one of Ring Fest, Ringside Fest. You know, those of you who collect a lot of WWF figures or even just wrestling figures in general, Ringside Collectibles is like the premier place to go to buy these and pre-order. If you want to know for a fact you're going to get it, that's the place to go. I mean, yeah, you can stumble upon one at Walmart occasionally or Target or so forth and so on, but they get a lot of exclusives too. Like they announced today that they have an exclusive Undertaker from SummerSlam, I believe it is, and he comes with the WCW tag title back during the Invasion angle, and he actually has pull down straps. It's not cheap cloth looking crap. It's that they went the distance and done like a rubberish type singlet that looks really good actually while on him. It looks, I will say now when the straps come down, it looks a little bulky. But they announced a wave of figures today. Today's day one. They announced him. You had an '84 Hulk Hogan. They come with the old '84 belt and a Mr. T
Yeah,
from WrestleMania 1. Those were both pretty nice. They look really good. Hogan come with like 3 different heads, I believe, a couple different hands. Oddly enough, I was probably more excited about the Ricky the Dragon Steamboat with the WCW World Television title. There's a regular and a variant, or chase, and they look amazing. I mean, we're talking 1993, 94 Ricky Steamboat. He's WCW television champion when he's feuding with, Stunning Steve Austin, Dustin Rhodes, the Dangerous Alliance, Arn Anderson. I mean, he has some really great matches. If you're not a WCW fan, go back on Peacock and watch some of those matches. They hold up well, very well.
yeah, I saw those. To me, I if and I'm not a wrestling figure collector, and you'll see that when you see my collection. You won't see any of that really. What I would like to have though is if they had the Mr. T and if he would fit well enough into my GI Joe classified line, I might would stick him in there. A team mixing in there, and
He
I'd
comes
actually
with
I'd like to
the
get a
starter
slaughter to go in
kit. I mean, he looks nice. He has a couple different heads. He's got the Hulkamania hat, and he's got the huge, neck piece. Mattel did announce today, apparently, their ultimate version of Kane. He's dropped in a few places, and they've had some issues with the head and arms, like the striping on the face, on the mask. Did not in their first run. It got by QC, and it didn't look as great as I thought. So they have announced that let it settle down. They're creating it in process right now. So everything moving forward is produced will be created, but anything that's prior to that, if you'll just give them a little bit of time, contact them, they'll send you the fixed head and the correct arms. So I mean that's pretty commendable. The fact that they're willing to get ahead of this and say, look, we dropped the ball. Here we've got a plan in place. We'll honor you. It sucks that you have to open your fucking figure to fix it. If you're one of those that like I used to buy 2 of each wrestling figure, one to open and one to display. And
right.
I downsized my wrestling collection greatly in the last year. I kind of regret it now. But the majority of what I have still wrestling figure wise is in the box or, the more exclusive figures, so to speak. So he's not why I'm hoping I don't get the version that's mauled the fuck up. I want the version that's corrected and fixed because I don't
Well,
want to take him out to put a different head on him.
and I'll tell you what, since you mentioned the QC and their willingness to fix it, I think the company that started a lot of that was the Super 7. Anytime they ship something out
Yes.
that's not right, they back it up and they redo it, or they say, hey, like with the Chitara, you're not going to get this. It's going to be late because guess what? It wasn't right. So I've seen that, but then, in regard to Super 7, have you seen their Silverhawks Wave 2 pre-order that went up yesterday?
Whew, brother, man, they wrote my wallet has been over molested this past week because I've been pre-ordering left and right. I can't lie. I got Steel Wheel, Bluegrass. They both look amazing. I was super, super excited to see we got the furry version of Monstar. that was like legit. Like, holy shit, this is so cool. And the throne, I had to get the throne. I got everybody but the guy with the pitchfork. I forget his name.
Windhammer.
Or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Windhammer.
Yeah, I got everybody but him, and it gave me hope too. Because once I seen that throne for Monstar, you know that with their Power Ranger license, at some point you're getting Zed, and you will get Zed's throne. Something that has
Yeah, you
kind of
will.
eluded collectors for years.
Yeah, I see that coming. And not to skip ahead too much on them, but just because we're running a little tighter on time. Did you? This past weekend was also the TF Con, which is where the third-party Transformer lines do a lot of their announcements. And I saw that Ocular Max has released the first of their Defensor pieces for pre-order. I myself have been going for the X Transbots ones, one because they started sooner, two because it's a little bit more size comparable to some of the others I have. I think the Ocular Max is like an inch to 2 inches smaller than the Superion I want or that I have, and I didn't want to have that big disparity in their sizes. But got to admit, it looked really good. And then Fans Toys came out with a couple of new of the mini bots that they haven't done so far. I think these were really the three biggest reveals, but they Power Glide and Outback from seasons 2 and 3 of the show, and they were some of the mini cons, but not as many reveals coming out of that as they usually are. But I think that's because they announced so much stuff ahead of that in fear that it wouldn't happen. X Transbots released like 20, almost 20 figures in the last few months as far as reveals, and
yeah, I'm waiting. I got their cup pre-ordered right now. I'm kind of waiting him to drop. He's due to drop at any time now on Big Bad Toy Store. So I'm kind of waiting because
yeah, they
it's
had
going so good in my case.
they had so many reveals before that because I think a lot of people were scared they weren't going to make it to this show in Baltimore, and was it even going to happen just because all these have been canceled. It did end up happening, just not as many announcements, but there's been a lot of stuff shown prior to that. I think with that was all I had for new stuff. Did you have anything else that we missed, or?
Not a whole lot. I mean, just in wrestling news, apparently during SmackDown Live this past Friday night, Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair had
Oh yeah,
almost a legit shoot. It got pretty heated in the ring between the two of them. Charlotte didn't want to look weak, and she pretty much she crapped all over Becky, and Becky took great offense. But she was a professional in the ring. But once they got backstage, it got pretty ugly from what I'm to understand, and they asked Charlotte to leave, and then she left without talking to Vince. So she's got some pretty legit heat there in the WWE right now.
yeah. From what I heard, she was escorted out. Actually, they actually had the security had to make her leave.
Yes, they she walked right by Vince. She didn't stop to speak to him, and that pissed him off. And then when Becky come through, Becky and apparently all the other female divas or whatever, they're pretty damn pissed at her, and they're not happy. Nobody wants to work with her. And you almost wonder, is she self-sabotaging to get out of her contract to go to AEW because, her boyfriend slash, I think they may be engaged or whatever, he works there. He tweeted out, fuck you, WWE, immediately after.
Yeah,
So there's a legit, animosity there.
yeah, and I've also seen where they're saying, hey, if there's anybody who's actually as close to possible as being bulletproof and not taking any flack for it. A lot of people think, at least for the female division, it's her that they're not going to say anything because what are they going to do without her? But I don't know. You
They've
push
been
enough
around
buttons.
for a long time, but you still have Becky Lynch. I mean, as long as you have Becky Lynch, you don't need Charlotte Flair, honestly. I don't think it would hurt the WWE at all if they just released Charlotte and allowed her to go to AEW.
Especially if you can get Bailey back at any point in time whenever she's able to. I know she's been out with injury and surgery and stuff, but I will tell you that while Charlotte is probably the premier wrestler out of the females, Bailey is the most entertaining one to me. I would rather see her be on there and be a heel anytime because she can play a heel perfectly with no issues. She is hilarious.
Yeah, I didn't understand turning Becky heel. This would be where I would turn her back face. She'd be a baby face, and I would build my women's division around her. I know they really want Bianca Belair to do it, but I'm sorry, she's just not it. This is sometimes the more realistic angles is what works.
Yeah,
go with it.
Yeah, and since you brought up wrestling, I almost forgot about what we talked about last night with the Ring of Honor announcing that they are releasing their entire roster to reorganize their business structure. From what I had listened to today, because I listened to some news about that from a couple of outlets, and they kept during the pandemic, they kept everybody they had on contract, and they paid them for their entire time, even though they weren't doing any live shows. They did do a few pre-recorded very late in the year, early into this, very late last year, early into this year. Very few shows though, but they paid everybody, even the ones who only had one or two engagements booked with them. They still paid them for those engagements, even though they didn't have them, which is commendable.
Yeah,
But
but
at the
they're
same
saying they're going
time,
to rebrand after spring. But you know what? I mean, it reminds me a whole lot of WCW in 2000 when Bischoff was trying to put together his deal to buy WCW before the WWF did. His thing was he was going to shut down for 3 months, restructure, and start forward after about a quarter, basically. And it's very similar talk, and I think it's just going to have very similar.
it
I won't
probably,
be surprised at all if they never fire back up. WWF acquires the library because so many of their big stars now were former Ring of Honor champions.
yeah.
I mean, you got to look, that library has to be worth a great deal of money. I mean, Samoa Joe, Brian Danielson, Seth Rollins started there, Kevin Owens. I mean, just the list goes on and on of great talent that started there. Their early CM Punk, I mean, their early work is there. This
Well,
if AEW were smart, they would acquire that video library, not the talent, the video library.
yeah, they need to stop acquiring talent. But now, to your point, where it sounds like WCW, what really Bischoff had all his plans, but what really stopped him from doing that was the network television. And
Yeah.
after the news I listened to today, out of three different casts about that, or different podcasts about that, two of them expressly came out and said, "Hey, that what happened was it was not Ring of Honor's management that decided to make the roster dissolution and rebrand. It came from Sinclair Television, which actually owns the rights to all their stuff. So again, the television network said, "No, you've blown enough money. We've got to figure out something else."
Yeah, I mean, what I was reading too, it came across like that their program got canceled, and without the TV
Yeah.
programming, they couldn't. I wouldn't be surprised. I would honestly, you can almost take it to the bank. Black Machismo and the Briscoe brothers will be in AEW before April.
Oh yeah.
That them three, I can guarantee you, will be in AEW. The rest, while there's some good talent there, I feel they'll probably be on the NWA Power Hour or whatever it is that they call their YouTube show. Because there's some good talent there. Don't get me wrong, there's some really good talent there in that NWA, and I love the fact they've resurrected some old titles like the World Television title. The Pope has that. I mean, and I always liked Pope. He was a very good character. I don't know why he didn't make it in WWF because he would have. He's a great heel, very great heel.
Yes, he is.
But
But with that, I think just in the interest of time, I know there's probably some more news out there. We should probably jump into what our focus topics for today are. And I think we were going to talk about the state of collectibles and the toy industry. And I think for to begin that off with, we wanted to talk about, just what is the state of the collectibles. And I've been saying toy the whole time, but I should probably correct myself, say collectible, because it's not all just toys. There's other things, especially when you watch our videos. There's signed comics, there's prop replicas, championship belts, everything else. But thinking about the state of the industry in today's world, there's I guess we could start with the elephant in the room of getting everything to people right now. There's the couple of different.
that's the thing. It's a double-edged sword to be a collector right now, isn't it? On one hand, it is never a greater time for the product being put out. On the other
Yeah,
hand, get the fucking product out. So
yeah.
it's
So that's kind of, I have 2 points, and I think they both tie together. Is number one are it's a great time to be a collector, but it's also a little bit rough because all these products are being dropped, and then is the amount of products too much? And I say
I
that
worry
respect.
about that with Super 7 a lot because they say every time you
Yeah,
turn around, they are, giving a teaser of some new product they're dropping. They've acquired a new license. They put out a great product and an amazing promo for this stuff. However,
and great service as
we're
well.
not seeing the product.
Yeah, and you know, there's a couple of reasons for that, you know, and I'm not going to get into them greatly because there's a lot of backstory to them. You and I both work in the logistics industry, so you know, we understand one of them very well. The container getting drama, you know, that there's containers over across the sea that can't come over right now because they can't get them shipped out fast enough. They can't get new ones back in because the ones that are shipping out are sitting on boats for off the coast, and you can watch any news outlet and see how many boats are sitting out there right now with stuff there, and then it's getting to the dock and it's getting full. But at the same time, when you're getting a container back to refill another one to send more stuff, and you know that's pipeline altogether for logistics is just screwed basically at the moment. You know, I've seen
Yeah,
articles
logistics
and
is a
announcements
big
that
key into it.
20 days on the ocean now is about 120 days. So I mean that just creates a gigantic bottleneck. But there's also the energy crisis they have, you know, over in China right now, which where a lot of the factories are in today's world, and they run on coal and they can't get enough coal to supply because again the supply chain is choked on that as well. And you know, there's factories working 16 hours a week, 2 days, 8-hour shifts, and that's all they can produce. And then when you're doing that, you not only do you eventually your containers will get empty because you won't have anything to put in them because you can't produce it fast
Yeah.
enough. So, but you know, when I
The
look at all,
demand is there, the supply is not.
yeah, but when I look at that too, is are we overburdening the demand? Because like you talked about Super Seven, the one thing I do like about them, if you're a collector of just one property or a handful of properties, they only put out 4 figures a quarter for that property, maybe 5. You know, if you look at Power Rangers, they're doing 5 because they're doing a Zord. If you're looking at Thundercats, they only do 4 figures in a quarter. It's 2 heroes, 2 villains. Now, granted, they're not showing up within a quarter right now, but that's kind of how their
That's the
structured model
product.
to sell is.
When two waves drop in the same time frame because of where they fell back to where this
Yeah.
should have been first 4 months, this second month, but then it pushes back and they both drop at the same. Or this comes before this. That's when you really start worrying. When this comes before this, that becomes an issue.
That is, but you also got to look at too. For them, I like that structure. If it's supposed to be, you know, so many in a quarter, so I can kind of plan. Okay, if I'm a collector, and I think this is something we can get into in our next topic too. Is, you know, what's your ideology on collecting? Because some people collect everything, some people are just this line, and that's what I'm gonna stick with, and that's it. You know, I don't collect everything, but I do collect a good deal of stuff. But you know, if I want to get Thundercats and Silverhawks, both of which I do get, and I buy those, but I don't want to buy Super Sevens Power Rangers, well, I know to look out and how to budget my stuff. But then when you've got properties like what Hasbro's doing, you know, we talked about Marvel earlier. Marvel Legends drops something every few weeks, and if you're a completist collector, there's no way you can afford that in today's world because the prices had to go up a little bit to support everything, right? I get that, but man, you know, this past week they did 2 different events, one on the weekend, and dropped what 5 or 6 GI Joes. They've already announced another 2 days later, and then more through social media and other platforms. And it's like, okay, if you're doing pre-orders for all these, how am I going to afford all these at one time? And you know,
Yeah, because I mean, we're I guess the average fan, you and I, and with neither one of us got the HasLabs anything. But I would almost venture to say we both probably dropped $250 to $300 a piece this past week in pre-orders.
oh yeah, yeah. I actually added it up, and you know, in fairness, some of the pre-orders I ordered, I would give the total, but you know, in reality, you know, some of that was stuff that one of them was a pre-order for an exclusive that I picked up for my kid for Christmas. A couple of figures I picked up for you just because you know, probably shouldn't say this on air, but you know, I'll go ahead and say it. You know, one of us keeps the Hasbro account to buy the premium collectible stuff, and we share it to share the shipping and stuff and all that. But you know, I
That's
picked
why
up
G
some.
Money Entertainment sponsors this show.
But you know, I ended up on Sunday, and when I added all that up, right at $530. And then when I
Yeah.
picked up 2 more pre-orders on Silverhawks this week because I only collect the heroes from Silverhawks, only the Hawks themselves, and you know that was another $110
It was
there.
hard not to get the entire set. It really was. But I did refrain. But I had to have that throne, and I know now that I bought the damn throne, they're not going to live in MOC. These figures are breathing. This
Yeah,
whole fucking set will breathe. I've waited since I was 8 years old to have a Silverhawk in my hand again. So they'll be out of the box. It's not happening.
So the amount of stuff that's being put out there. I mean, it's great when you're a collector, but it's also like, oh my gosh, I want all this and I can't afford it all. So at what point does it become? Have we tipped the scales too much in one direction where you get to the point where you say, you know what, just screw it. I'm done with it. I haven't reached that point, but then again, I don't buy everything. But you at some point we've got to overburden the market with what we're putting out there too. And I think they're getting close to it with some things. Super
I do
7.
worry about that with Marvel. They do seem to flood the market with a great deal of stuff at one time.
Well, and then they end up at Ollie's for $10 a piece, right?
Hey, you know what? I'm not arguing about that though, because you can make some great finds at Ollie's. So hey,
I'm not busting on for that, but at what point do they say, all right, we're making too much stuff, we got to back up a little bit and make just what people want versus everything? Because they do have that habit of, well, let's make this whirlwind figure that nobody has ever asked for in their collection except for these 3 people over here, and that's great for those 3 people.
well, okay. Speaking of that, I mean, when you was up, keep me updated with the HasCon or PulseCon, the Doctor Strange villain they dropped. He looks amazing. I mean, he looks cool as shit.
Oh yeah.
I, as an average fan that do not read Doctor Strange, had no fucking clue who he was. Could I look at him and identify, okay, this is probably a Doctor Strange villain? Yes. However, I didn't know who he was other than that he just looked cool. So I mean, your normal fans not buying this figure. I mean, you have, and I'm sure there is demand there. I'm not to any of you that are Doctor Strange fanatics there.
Oh yeah, and I don't discount that because I'm a fan of weird fiction. I mean, you'll see when you see my collection later. I have a shelf of New Warriors. How many people are reading the New Warriors books or cared about them? There might be 8 of us in the world, maybe less than that. I mean, but I wanted to build those as soon as and I didn't think about when they first started. And as they made more and more of those, I was like, oh, I got to build this collection now and set up a little display for them. And who else is going to buy those? Probably nobody else. So I'm happy to have them, but at the same time, I'm like, did they really need to make that? Because did they really get their money worth out of selling that?
You really wonder sometimes. I mean, are they really getting the return? And they must be. I mean, somebody in marketing is gauging what the fans want, what to put out and produce, and
yeah,
how
I'm
many
sure
Wolverines can we put out, honestly? So you do have to branch out into other figures.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that to an extent. I just wonder, when do we reach that tipping point of what's too much? But since you brought that up about, what are the fans willing to invest in? What are you getting on that return investment? What about all these crowd-funded projects that are going on now? This started as a one-off or two-off here, and there was 3 of them announced this week from Hasbro alone. And that's like, okay, they were running 1 a year, maybe 2 when one ended, the next one started, and they maybe gave it a month or 2 to breathe in between. But now it's like every month they're announcing one, and they give it 45 days of sale. As soon as that one ends, here's another one. But then this weekend, 3 of them within 3 days of each other. So 2 of them are ending on the same day, and one's ending on, and then they're different properties. But at the same time, for those folks who are fans of multiple properties, you can't afford that, man. Maybe
high.
somebody can.
They're
I can't.
Very high. Because I mean, I was guilty of buying the WWF new generation ring when it dropped from MarriedCollector.com. I mean, as soon as I seen that, I was like, I don't care what it cost. I've got to have this. And as a fan, I mean, I was one of the first backers on it. And the whole time I'm hoping more backers hit, just because of the more stuff you got. Because I mean, you started out, you only had the promise of the ring, the entrance with the lights, and Diesel. Then they teased Doink, and then finally you got the announcers table and an exclusive announcer version of the Macho Man Randy Savage that we've never got. So I see the allure to them. And it's the first crowd funded thing I've backed. I kind of regret not doing the Sentinel now. And yes, I see that he is on Big Bad Toy Store for like $700 right now.
No longer. He sold out within minutes.
Oh, did he?
Oh yeah, he sold out in less than an hour.
24 hours in, wasn't it? It was pretty close.
No, he was sold out within an hour. When I hit you up and said it's on there, and that was when the news article had just dropped, it was gone about 30 minutes later because I checked it.
Oh wow! I looked on there and I seen it on there, and I was just like, ooh. I was like, but I just feel like if I want to sink money into something like that, I would have probably bought the Thunder Tank, and I'm still Man, I've been on the fence so many times about getting that.
I,
It's
so I thought about that one. I passed on it because I don't open my Thundercats, and I was like, well, I don't want to buy that, and then spend another $50 to buy a Lion-O and another Panthero and two or three others just to fill up the whole tank because I would have to open it now. I've kind of kept this under wraps, especially because my child was crazy because he really wanted me to get this to put it in display because he knows that when I'm dead and gone, all this is his, and he really wanted to see it in display. And he had a cool idea for it, and I'm going to steal his idea and put it together. But I did go in for a Galactus.
oh wow!
I waited till the last
Congratulations.
day, and I saw that it hit all the tiers, and I was like, you know what? I've got an idea of how to actually make a really cool display with this, and I actually bought a couple of. I bought a smaller glass case to put next to a tall bookshelf, so I'm going to stand him on it, and then the other bookshelf will come up to, if I measured right, about to his, almost to his torso, almost into his chest area. And you've got three of the heroes. So I was like, well, I'm gonna take those three heroes and let them fight the retro Fantastic Four wave. Set them up with the Fantastic Four, and then have maybe Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, on the base of where Galactus's feet are, and the rest of them up here like it's on top of a skyscraper or something. But also, I bought the
Yeah, I feel
classic.
like G Money Entertainment is really missing out on selling tickets to your house as a museum to see shit like this
I,
because
I I will
you have
post
an
pictures.
amazing collection, and that just sounds even.
I will post pictures once it's done, but I have an idea if Galactus is going to be here, and then at his feet will be Mr. Fantastic, Invisible Woman, and maybe have Nova attacking from there, and Invisible Woman with a force shield up, Mr.
Some of
Fantastic
those
dealing with
pictures
him,
almost
and
sold me with that when they showed like how they done the retro Mister Fantastic, and he's like climbing, and
yes, that's what
those
I want.
pictures look really good. And then the last one where he had the surfer in his hand, where they designed a stand that holds
Yeah,
him in his hand. I was like, you son of a bitch,
that's
you're
kind of what I want to do with Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman and have Nova. But I also ordered the classic Doctor Strange, so he's gonna be somewhere in there along with the FF. And I've got that it's the AI Iron Man, but he looks so classic. And if you turn him and don't notice the blue circle of his chest instead of gold, I'm gonna put him in there, and it's just gonna be like a classic Marvel versus Galactus type thing. And I haven't told anybody I got it until today because I was keeping it, quiet from the kid because I didn't want him to know it until it showed up here and just be surprised. And it'll be next year before any of that shows, right? But I
yeah, but
you know,
that's quite the announcement.
I
Dude, I'm happy for you. That's
I canceled some other pre-orders that I had that I was kind of on the fence about anyway. And I was going to save this for when we're talking about some of the other collecting later. But just to go ahead and mention it, I had ordered the first wave of Super 7 Power Rangers. I said they're too toony looking. They're fighting for the same space on my shelf as the Lightning Collection, which looks more realistic, and I can get 2 for 1 with the Lightning Collection. I'm gonna stick with it. And then I
yeah,
had like
Hasbro wins that war hands down,
yeah, and then I had
hands
like
down.
the Goliath from NECA, and I thought he looked amazing, and I really wanted him, but at the same time, I'm not gonna buy any others, and this doesn't fit anywhere else in any of my collectibles because I don't collect any other gargoyle stuff. As much as I love the show, I didn't collect it. I have nowhere to really put it and make it fit in, so I'm going to cancel that. And I took all that money and shifted it over to the Galactus to eat up that cost. So that's kind of how I justified it for myself. But at the same time, those
I'm guilty of the
crowdfunded.
gargoyles. I've got Goliath pre-ordered. I will have Demona. I will get the Bronx and the Hudson. He's already been shown, so
Are you getting the
I
Thalog?
shall have the set.
Are you going to get the Thalog too, the clone of Goliath?
I've been on the fence about him because he's just a damn repaint. I oh man, as much as I love a Ben Riley figure, he's not just a repaint. That
Right.
there is going to be solely repaint. I mean, I've got to see what comes with him. If he has some pretty cool accessories that tie into the show that make me harken back to a particular episode or so. I mean, I know for a fact I will get the Xanathos in the uh, armor.
Yeah.
That was always those figures were always really cool to me. Like you had the exploding armored gargoyle. Those were cool. So I'm sure we'll get that, and the Riker in his Goliath outfit. So um,
Yeah.
I'll get
You
all
know,
that.
like I said, I didn't. I canceled some of those in order to be able to order the Galactus just to balance out because again I'm not rich so I can't buy everything but you know the collecting right now is there's so much stuff out there that I'd love to have, but there's only so much I can get. So you're kind of having to pick and choose. And I guess this takes us directly into our next topic, which is um, you know ideology on collecting, and what do you collect? Because for me, I collect a lot of the toys, but I've also started looking, and I've watched a few of those shows, like the hoarder shows and stuff like that, just every now and then, just to see some of the people's collections of stuff. But then they're like, they'll have the therapist on there telling them, hey, if you pick one line and collect just it, you could have more of it. You could sell this other stuff off. And I've always wondered, is it better to collect just one thing and get all of it? Because there was a time where I got to where it was, I tried that for a while. It was just Green Lantern stuff, because that's one of my favorite things. And I had an entire room just, there was 2 walls in the room just full of Green Lantern Mentone card figures and stuff. And I was like, you know what? Never going to have every one of these they make, and I'd like to have some of this other stuff too that feel like I'm missing out on. So I stopped doing that, and I sold some of those off and downsized that a little bit, but I started picking up other things as well. And for me, I have favorites that I buy, and when I buy a property, if I start looking at one property or the other, so, am I going to collect the entire thing, or am I going to collect just favorites? And then
I
that's
came
kind
to
of
terms with that a long time ago with what you're saying right there. You're never going to be able to have every single piece, because
right.
no matter how well you do it, there's going to be an exclusive somewhere drop that, for whatever reason, it sold out in 90 seconds. It's a San Diego Comic Con exclusive. You're not at San Diego Comic Con. You have no, you know what I'm saying? So you're never going to be
Yeah.
complete. And I guess my comic collection taught me this, because, I'm a huge Amazing Spider-Man fan. Huge Amazing Spider-Man fan. But I realistically know I can't get a complete run. I don't care
Yeah.
how wealthy I get. I'll never have a complete run of this. So I went with, and this is how I've kind of started building my collection in the last 10 years or so, key pieces. I mean, if something really tugs on me, like comic wise, I've started buying first appearances that I can afford that are CGC.
Yeah.
I try to get as high grade as I can, and it would be in my first appearance, and I go that route. I'd rather do that than try to have every single issue of Amazing Spider-Man or Uncanny X-Men or so forth and so on. So I mean, I've got a lot of Silver Age to Bronze Age first appearances in CGC now. Probably one of my more prouder ones is the first appearance of Hobgoblin. That's such an iconic cover, tearing the Spider-Man suit. That's legit for me. So I kind of went that route with figures as well. I mean, I'm not gonna have every single figure of every line, so I kind of cherry pick, so to speak.
So it sounds
And
like,
I had to cancel some stuff recently too when I see some other stuff come out. Because like when the 03, they do amazing, biggest 1/6 scale
yeah.
figures. They're beautiful. And they announced they were doing a Power Rangers line. And the first thing I did was I gobbled up, the Red Ranger, the Green Ranger, the White Ranger, and then Dakin. And I was like, you know what? I don't have shelf space for all this stuff.
Exactly.
So I did cancel the Red and Green Ranger. I kept the White, and I kept Dakin or Draken, or however you say it. I kept those two, but I did. You free up $200 between these two figures. I'm like, I can go buy 4 NECAs for what one of these here
Yeah.
cost. And so that's kind of how you have to do it nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, you sound like you have the same philosophy I do. It's like I'm not a one property person. I tried it for a while. It wasn't me. I need to do the mini because I love so much of that stuff, and I'm, me. I've got an entire storage shed full of comic books. And you can't even walk in the door for it because I've collected them
Yeah.
since I was so young. And so when I look at properties, whether it's cartoons or toy figures or whatever it is, collectible wise, I'm like, there's too many that I want something of. But now when I go into one, I look at that property itself and say, okay, this property, what am I going to get? So like Transformers, I went for Transformer Masterpieces, which you see behind me, and they're third party as well as official to card. I mean, it's a combination, but when I went into it and I bought a few of them, I was like, oh, these are really nice. I think I'm going to get more of them. After I tested out those first couple, I said, okay, this is my limits. This is what I'm going to get. So at some point, this collection of this is complete. And I said, I'm going to do seasons 1, 2, and 3 of Transformers. And I did that. And the only thing I added after that was the Junior Headmasters, which were made as toys for Generation 1, but never shown on U.S. television. They were Japanese television only. That's the only thing besides seasons 1, 2, and 3 I've added in, and I've said, okay, I'm going to get these, and then once this is over, I'm done with them. I'm waiting on 4 pieces of Defensor, and nobody's made a Computron or a Broadside, and once those are finished, I'm done with that set. I'm not buying any more masterpieces unless
And
somebody
in
makes a really
fairness,
good one
the
to
look of
swap
these
one out for.
figures, they're far more accurate than what your G1 counterparts are.
Oh yeah.
And at a fraction of the cost. Because if you go try to buy a Galvatron G1 or a Megatron Starscream, Optimus Prime, maybe you could afford a little more just because they flood the market with him so much. But, if you were to try to just find a Jazz complete, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's ridiculous. To where
Yeah.
you can go buy a third party or MP version for $100, 200 at the max,
Yeah.
and
But
it looks superior.
I put limits in place of what I was gonna spend on any of them, or when I'm gonna stop. I have an idea of when to stop, and once I stop, the only thing I would be doing is if they come out with one that's a much more accurate one than one I might have, maybe I'll swap it out and I'll go sell the old one and I'll buy the new one, to replace it. You get some of my money back, but I look at other properties too, like GI Joe Classified. I'm buying only the Joes or only favorite characters because I just can't afford. I mean, there's too many characters in GI Joe to afford to buy all of them. And then when I look at, do I want to do a display where I take them out of the package? It becomes only favorites at that point, right? So I'm looking at them right now across from me, and I have all the GI Joes they've made so far that have come out, including Breaker with his ramp cycle. Barbecue's the only one not here yet, and he's supposed to be here Monday. But as far as buying them, take out the package, Duke, Flint, Snake Eyes, Beachhead, and Barbecue. The rest of them, Scarlet, Lady J, Gung Ho, Roadblock, they're staying in. I'm not buying a second one to get out because it becomes too expensive at that point, right? And then I look at other stuff like Thundercats. I'm only buying the cats themselves. So once I get all 10 Thundercats, I'm not buying any more of that Super 7 set. Now, I will give Super 7 props too. They have a great marketing model where they say, we're going to get you all the cats, but we're only going to do 2 in each set. So if you got 10 cats, you got to buy at least 5 waves of these things just to get all of them, right? So they've got that planned out. And that's a great marketing model to keep you coming back.
And you're finally getting because in the past they've, marketed cat set wasn't the ones you wanted. Like we've legitimately never got a Tiger, a Chitara, in a masterpiece form like this.
Yeah.
Now, and I'll commend them. I'll give them props. I'd far rather them do what they did with Chitara versus what they did with Panthro, where they had to release him and then later we'll send you this bag of shit to make him right.
Yeah, but even doing that though, I thought that was commendable too because they could have said,
yes,
sorry, you got what you got," but they didn't. And I'll say,
as great as Slide looks, I've seen where there's been some issues with people where they took them out and there's like some paint discoloration in a few spots where the strap runs.
Yeah.
They have released a statement and they said, "Hey, look, if you reach out to us, send us a picture, we'll make it right with you." So I mean, their customer service is great.
And I'll give Hasbro that too because I bought for my Lightning collection, and that's one of the ones where I'm buying every figure they're making because, and I may have to change that because I started out with just okay, we're going to do this many, then 3 months later we'll do another 4 or 5, and then another 4 or 5. But now it's getting to where they're doing them so regularly, it's getting harder to keep up with getting all of them. But so far, I have got them all, including the SDCC exclusive.
Do you feel they're doing that to try to compete with Super 7?
No, because Super 7 only has a license to do Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. So everything else Hasbro's doing every other series. Like they just dropped an exclusive yesterday for Power Rangers and Space Silver Ranger, which I kind of complained about because they made no announcement. And it is an exclusive that's going to Walgreens and Hasbro Pulse only. And the Hasbro Pulse sold out within a couple of hours. Luckily, I got one because I just looked across it because there was no announcement during any of the events they've had in the past week. But, when I bought a White Dino Thunder one, which was a exclusive for Walgreens, there's supposed to be black paint around the visor on his helmet. It's supposed to be white with a red visor and then black paint around the red. They didn't paint the red or the black. I mean, they didn't paint the black line. So as soon as it dropped and people were, the first time they heard a hint of it, they said, call us immediately. Here's the thing. And I emailed them and they said, okay, just send us a picture of your receipt and where you bought it. And then I was like, well, I don't have the receipt because I just bought it and I didn't know you were going to do it. They said, oh, we don't even need the receipt. Just send us a picture that you own the figure. So I sent a picture that I owned the figure. A few days later, they reached back out and said, hey, this is in the mail. Here's the tracking. and they send a proper head to put on that. It comes in a little Ziploc bag, and obviously I'm not opening the figure because I'm a mint on card with those, but I have it with the figure. So if I ever did want to resell, or if I ever did choose to open it, I've got the right colored head now where they painted the black lines on it. But everybody's trying to do those things, but it's just kind of interesting to see how different people are collecting different stuff and what they're collecting. But in that regard, since we've been talking about, what's your ideas of the collecting and all, I think one more thing on that I wanted to hit before we moved on was, what do you look at when you're looking at them and say, okay, yeah, so I'm a huge Power Rangers collector. I got a ton of them, different types, Bandai as well as Lightning collection from Hasbro, but like the 3-0, or is it 0-3 or 3-0, whatever it is.
0-3.
Yeah, 0-3. I looked at those and I thought they looked great, but then I looked at the price tag and I said, okay, my limit on buying the Power Rangers, I'm not going to the 1/6 scale. For one, I don't have a lot of room for it, but for two, I can't afford $600 to get all 6 of the original Rangers, which is what they're doing right now, and still keep buying the other stuff. So, what is your deciding factor on one of those? Is it just based on what it is, or is it based on price as well, or?
Price factors in. I mean, don't get me wrong. I do look at things and say, ooh. But to me, as a collector, I look at what memory it brings me back to. Certain characters just, stir that nostalgia within you. The Green Ranger himself, why I love Power Rangers. The Green Ranger himself, he's just going to forever be my dog. So I try to get as much Green Ranger stuff as possible, and I will say Bandai done a lot better job with their legacy stuff than Hasbro has done, like with the Dragon Dagger, the Saba. Their Zords are so far superior than what Hasbro has done. So I haven't touched any of the Hasbro things that they've done to market afterwards. Like I got the Bandai version that's the communicator of the White and Green Ranger. I got that and the Morpher and things of this nature. But Hasbro wise, the figures were spot on amazing. So I try to get all the Tommy figures, as much Jason as I can get. And it's just certain ones. Like I don't have to have the original 5, but I do want
Gotcha.
all the Tommies, and I have every version of Tommy they put out. I got the putties. Zed was a must. Goldar was a must. I didn't get their version of Rita. I wasn't a fan of it, and I did go that route on Super 7 because their version just it looked great to me.
it,
And
it
it's the only
did.
Super 7 Power Ranger I bought.
It did, and all of their stuff that they've made for Super 7 looks good. That's where I was talking about kind of some of the limits. Like I didn't go in for Super 7 only because I was like,
the Rangers look too cartoony. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah, and there is a difference between a 6 and a 7-inch figure. It's not a whole lot, right? But there's not. They're fighting for the same shelf space, and I only have a limited amount of shelf space. So then I look at it and said, okay, I've got a limited amount of shelf space. I got to decide between continuing with Hasbro or swapping the Super 7. And then I looked at Super 7 and said, well, they're only doing one property. Out of their 28-year run, Hasbro's doing them all. And then the next thing I looked at was with the price. I was like, for the price of one of those, I can get 2 of the Lightning collection. I'm just going to stick with where I'm at. And I had to do that with other stuff as well. But, I mean, there's certain properties
Like
when
the
they come
Joes,
out.
I've stuck to my favorites. Like I didn't waste time with the Cobra Trooper. I didn't waste time with the Cobra Officer. I mean, the Cobra Officer looked great in his reveal the other day. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just, what I'm saying? As a character, I have no stock in. Will I buy the Crimson Guard? You're damn right. And I'll buy 2 Crimson Guard. I mean, there's certain ones like a Firefly. I bought 2 of him. I got 2 Vipers. Because I had they were some of the ones I had to open.
Yeah, and I've done the same. But I look at some properties too. Like I love Thundercats and Silverhawks, and I wish I could buy 2 of each of those and open them of the Thundercats and the Hawks themselves. Now, I'm not invested in the
But
villains of the
$110
series,
just to
but
open one.
yeah, it's not worth it. I can't do it. But speaking of that, and we don't have a lot of time left in this segment, but one thing I did want to go through in this segment while we're talking about this is what would you say is your top 3 to 5 collectible lines that you have to, I know you pick certain figures out of each one, but what is the top 3 to 5 that you try not to miss
Are we
anything
talking
out of?
current, or are we talking like all time?
I would say current because I'm looking more at what you're collecting now, because you can go back and buy stuff, but that if you're like me, I have a small superpowers collection, and I have almost every member of the league. I'm lacking 4 of them. Some of these I've had since a kid. Some of them bought in later years, but that's something I have to go back and occasionally, once every couple of years and buy one because they get so expensive. But there's certain things we continue to collect now regularly. But what would you say are the ones that you continually look for and try to buy out of right now that you think are not just the ones you really want, but have some of the best quality too?
Right now, my go tos that I stick with the NECA horror collection. There's very little NECA puts out that I don't buy horror wise. And I don't so much open them because they come with the display, the door opens, you got a
Yeah.
good view of the figure, and they got limited mobility anyway, so to speak. They got points of articulation, but they come with a great deal of accessories and stuff. They look really cool, but they display very well that way. And I kind of set them in my case, side by side, almost like VHSs.
Yeah, and since you mentioned the NECA ones, just out of curiosity, because I actually don't think I own any NECA figures. I thought about getting the turtles in those just because they're cheaper than the Super 7, but then you've got Loyal Subjects making turtles now, which are even cheaper than that, and they look
You know what?
very cartoon
I'm
accurate.
glad you brought that up. I know it's not all on this subject, but I will say, Loyal Subjects, their turtles look like shit. I was not a fan of what their turtles look like. They look like shit. But their Shredder, Bebop, Casey Jones, and there was another one. Was it Rocksteady? I'm not sure if it was Rocksteady or
No, it
not.
wasn't
But
Rocksteady. It was it just a Foot Clan soldier?
I know it was their Shredder, Casey Jones, and Bebop.
Yeah,
Looked
there was one
great.
more.
And
Yeah.
at $20, dude, that's hard not to buy those.
Well, the turtles don't look fantastic overall, but you know what? They look very cartoon accurate. For the price of
Yeah,
them versus Super 7 for the cartoon accuracy, I'm almost tempted to buy the Loyal Subjects ones just because the
I
price
got a feeling
difference.
they're going to knock. Yeah, they're going to put a huge dent in the Super 7. I mean, I'm very tempted to buy the Bebop and the Shredder and maybe even the Casey Jones. I mean, $60 there for all three of those.
Yeah.
That's one Super 7 figure.
Yeah. But before we get too far from the subject on those NECA figures, do you actually have any open? Because I always hear horror stories of their articulation being it's supposed to be
I have
like
a
this and
few.
they fall apart.
You know
They
what? I've never
don't
had any
move
issues with
well.
them falling apart. I have a handful that I've actually opened to display. They do pretty well. Like I said, they have a limited range of motion. They're not going to do. You're not going to pose them in just any body slamming way. However, I mean, you can pose them in a lot of the iconic stuff you want to do. I haven't had any arms fall off or legs, or heads. Maybe the ones I've opened, I've just been blessed on. But I mean, I have read stories where, yeah, you try to lift the
I
arm and
just
it pops out.
you always hear
Yeah.
horror stories of their stuff, but I don't own any of theirs, so I really don't know how it is.
I
But
own a great deal of it, but the majority of it's in the box. So, but
okay.
what little I've opened, I've had good quality. So,
Uh,
I even bought the Super Shredder of NECA. I mean, I know it's off the horror path, but I did buy their Super Shredder.
Now he looked good. But besides NECA, what are some of the other ones you pick up?
Um, Marvel Legends, of course. I mean, they're doing some really great quality right now. You're getting figures you wish you had when you were 10 years old. Now, I mean, that's just they got the adult collector in mind. As much as they're supposed to be for kids, the adult collector's more in mind. WWF Legends or WWE Legends, so to speak. I buy their Legends figures. I don't buy none of their current shit. But if they produce a cool looking Macho Man, Bret the Hitman Hart, I have to get I try to get every Bret
Yeah,
Hart figure I can. Uh, they're doing a lot more Hulk Hogan now, so I'm guessing he's finally forgiven and back in the fold because they're starting to release a lot of Hogan stuff in a short span here. So I stick to the Legends. Masterpiece Transformers. I mean, I got a huge case in the living room full of the stuff. I need another case because I'm fixing to start. I got a few more pieces coming. And lastly is the Hasbro. A slash between the Rangers and the Star Wars Black Series. I'm really I don't buy everything Black Series. Don't get me wrong, but the key figures, your Luke's, your Boba Fett's, your Han Solo in the Carbonite, Obi-Wan, Vader, things of this nature. I get those. I don't try to get the troopers. The one I slept on, I kind of is the Emperor in the throne.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I'd have got that now. Originally, it might have been an exclusive, and now they've got a version that's not exclusive. But yeah, that's mine. What are yours?
Well, first, just to agree with one of yours, I get Marvel Legends, but it's limited items. Like I buy, when you see the video later, you'll see some of my stuff. Like I go for X-Men a lot because I'm a huge X-Men fan, but it's favorites. Like I'm gonna get the Summers Clan because I'm fans of Cyclops, Havoc, and all of those characters. Sunspot, Cannonball, some of the oddball ones that were from New Mutants and stuff. But a good bit of those. I've got just a handful of Iron Man. I mean, they make one every wave just about, so I don't buy all of them. I only buy my favorites, the New Warriors, a few others. But you'll see more of those. I keep boxing what I open, but I do have a few that are open, like a New Warriors collection. I've got a X-Force and X-Factor, 90s X-Factor team put together, and I go through a lot of those. But I don't buy every figure they make because I don't need Anaconda or whoever else they're making from the Serpent Society and stuff like that. But beyond that,
and there's a collector out there somewhere that wants that. I mean,
yes. And
either that or the damn designers really want these figures, and they say, you know what? The only way this is going to happen if we get this guy.
Oh yeah. Then I get stuff like the Super Sevens, Thundercats, and Silverhawks, and I'm just doing the Thundercats and just the Silverhawks themselves, and that'll eventually end. But I figure I've probably got another good year and a half on those before they get through all of those.
So you didn't get Mumra or Monstar?
No, I did not, and I actually the one I really debated about though. Again, I don't collect a lot of the villain stuff, but the ones I really debated about on that was Snowman of Hook Mountain, just because he's an ally. But then again, I said nope, I'm going to stick to just the Thundercats to preserve my wallet some, and that's it.
So it's not even groomed, seeing as he comes with a Thundercat.
I debated on him too, and I said no. I did pass on him.
Wow, I commend you, G. I
think out of the core Thundercats, including the extra ones added in later, Linkso, Bengali, and Pumira, I think they've only got 4 that they haven't put into a wave yet for pre-order. So I think the Kittens, Wily Kit, Wily Cat, Bengali, and who was the last one? Or was that the last one? That might have been the last one. I'd have to look at it now. But I think that's all.
Bengali was only extended cat we hadn't already got before.
Yeah,
which was kind of surprising that you had the older. Well, I forget what his name, and then Lynx or whatever. You have both of those in the previous Matty Collector versions.
Yeah.
And they've already announced them here, but you know what? We're just now getting Tiger. We're just now getting Chitara.
I mean, yeah, and I get it. They're trying to spread out for the different collectors, right? But I get those, and then the Silverhawks. My other big lines is Power Rangers Lightning Collection. That's probably the only line I collect the villains from too, because I've got every character they've done in those so far, all the monsters, all the 2-packs. I take that back. I did not buy the Putty and Green Ranger 2-pack. Nope. I take that back. I do have that one. I do not have the Putty Patrol 2-pack. That's the one I don't have, because there was a single pack Putty, and there was a Putty in there with the Green Ranger, and then there was a Zed Putty, and I was like, I'm not buying that 2-pack as well.
I have the Zed Putty, and I have the Putty with the Green Ranger. I got those two.
I've got both of those. I just did not buy the Putty Patrol 2-pack they did. That's the only thing I don't have. I even have the San Diego Comic-Con Red and Gold Ranger exclusive, and I keep looking over at them if y'all are wondering what I'm looking at. But
I'm a little jelly of that. I'm gonna be honest. That's something I didn't even realize they had done it till you showed me a picture, and I was like, you know what? How the fuck did I not get this?
Well, and then it went on sale for Hasbro Pulse with a limited quantity they had left after San Diego Comic-Con. They had less than 5. They had to, because they sold out within 90 seconds. I didn't get it there. I had to pay aftermarket prices for it. That's probably my biggest line, and then my most expensive line is probably the Transformers Masterpiece. And they're not all masterpiece in the term of I'm using masterpiece as a generic term, but that's just the style. The official masterpiece.
The scale of them. They're not in the 6-inch.
Yeah,
Walmart on the shelf scales.
The official masterpiece is Takara Tomy, but I'm buying third-party ones as well as some Takara Tomy, and again, I'm getting close.
Some of those
to
are just as nicer. Honestly, I mean, they're really great. I've got my Megatron and my Galvatron are both third party, and you know what? They
Uh,
look just as amazing in there with the rest of them.
a lot of times they're better, to be honest. There's very few
Yeah.
times I would pick Takara over any of the others. I just get the Takara ones if they're officially licensed.
My Rodimus Prime, he is a third party because I have the Evil Rodimus, and he is the official Takara Masterpiece version. And if you put him next to my third party Rodimus,
Yeah,
third
they
party
don't hold
Rodimus
up.
blows me away. And they would be the same body mold if he were the good version. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why I said it's a mixture of the two. But I've got some that but that collecting again is almost over with because once I finish Defensor and a couple others that they just haven't made yet, I'm done with those. I think did I mention GI Joe Classified? That's probably the only other line that I'm really excited about. That as soon as something drops, I'm like, oh, am I going to buy that or not? But it's only the Joes. Again, I don't. I'm trying to get all the Joes in the package. That they may overrun me with that at some point, just because they do have such a plethora of people they can pull from. But so far, I've been able to keep up with that in the package, and then I'm just opening just a handful of them.
Just random question: out of the Joes that haven't been produced yet, which two would you like to see produced before the end of 2022?
Shipwreck and Dial Tone.
Okay.
And I know I was
Dalton
quick
would
with
be
that.
really sweet with that backpack and everything. That was always a favorite
He
as
was
a kid.
my favorites as a kid was always Duke, just the character. Now I never had the original Duke. I had the later one where he had like the red vest and the crop top hair and all.
Yeah.
But my favorite characters that I had as a kid besides him were Barbecue, and I had both Barbecues, the regular and the Slaughter's Marauders. Barbecue where he
Destiny
had
was
the
announced.
camo.
That was another of the ones announced. I paid to butt in
Yeah.
with about that. Just hit me.
No, that's fine. And then some of my other favorites as a kid were Spirit. I really liked him. I really liked Cutter and Shipwreck for whatever reason. I think I liked Cutter just because I like to put him in the. I always wanted the hovercraft and never had it. But those are
But do
some
you
of my
almost
favorites.
feel like that when they release Bazooka and Alpine, they need to be a 2-pack?
Yes, just
I
for
would
those.
totally buy that.
Them, and then I'd like to see a 2-pack of Leatherneck and Wetsuit because they
Yes.
were always together as well.
I would buy both of those 2-packs. Joe wise, I mean, I want to see Deep Six and probably Quick Kick will be my two.
Quick Kick's one I never had. I always wanted, so I'd like to see him. I always forget about him because I never had him as a kid.
Cover wise, I mean, they pretty well covered the bases. I've been like clamoring, like, when are we getting Crimson Guard? When are we getting a bat? Now we're finally getting those. They've been announced. Zaymont and Tomax are my others. So Cover's pretty well covered their bases. Probably probably the biggest one that they haven't done for me is the Techno Viper. That purple suit just with the backpack. I mean, that just looked really cool. Or sci-fi for the Joes will be pretty neat, I think.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be too far away from those, but they make a big deal out of getting some core characters and then doing some offbeat ones just to keep the collectors interested and coming back. So I think we'll see a lot more from them. But with that, we are running a little closer on time, so we'll go into our next section if you're good with that, which is our nerd out section. Which before we dive too much into that, this is where we'll take a pause and we'll show you some videos of our collection. Or Hassel's up first, and then you'll see mine, and we'll run through them, and you guys can check them out, and then we'll see you back here in just a moment.
We'll start the Hassel showcase with a bookshelf in my living room that is got the centerpiece of the WWF Winged Eagle Championship, probably the most prestigious and recognizable of all championships. This one here is pretty heavy, weighs a good bit. Very, very nice, beautiful title. We move to this side where I have my Julio Jones autographed football, Ultimate Pinhead. Of course, we got the Whites down here. Your good old Tombstone family. And right here, my Derek Muse autographed Jason figure. We'll start here. We got some horror stuff. Signed by the man himself, Tony Todd. Robert England autograph. Got old Fred coming out the wall there. This is where I got the entire cast of Night of the Demons, including the director, to autograph a film poster. I mean, it's time. So there's my autographed Bret Hart glasses. Moving on to my War is the Answer, the Five Finger Death Punch, the entire band autographs. Here we have a vintage Star Wars poster. It is OG, it is original, it is legit. Complete with Anakin's lightsaber right beside it. Ethan Van Sciver, original art of the Ghost Rider. And of course, the actual Marvel superheroes, the legit, with coins. Hogan and Warrior autographs. This belt right here has been signed by the entirety of the Four Horsemen. There you see it, the man Ric Flair, Bobby Lashley, the Killer Bees, the Nasty Boys, various other legends. Bret Hart I painted, various events I've been to. There's the man Dusty Rhodes up there. As you can see, still a proprietor of the DVDs. Gotta represent. That's kind of my art studio that I never mess with anymore. Ghost Rider I painted. And then the mural wall. This is some of what you guys see behind me each week when we do the Nerdy Manroom show. Autographed by Heather Langenkamp herself. Autographed by Hassel, who painted. And the man, Captain Spaulding himself. You have to kind of excuse the Halloween decorations, but there's just some of the stuff in my Transformers case. It's a little bit of everything. And the last case, you see Lucille and the Rangers up top. The man, Boba Fett himself. The Clive Barker box. Yeah, I'm sure you're wondering about John Wick guarding my fantasy football championship ring back there. Got the Spider-Man. Part of Ric Flair's sequin robe. Venom. The Ghost Rider. And then the Lucille I made. Legit barbed wire.
So a quick disclaimer for my video. A lot of my collection is spread out all over the place only due to space constraints. Normally I like to try and keep as much as possible that's the same theme together, but unfortunately that doesn't happen a lot, so I just wanted to mention that up front. But the first section we'll see here a few random DC Signature Collection figures, movie Power Rangers, as well as Luke Skywalker and some Dragon Ball Z and a few loose Marvel figures left laying around. Next up is our Green Lantern section. Got my Green Lantern and Yellow Lantern power batteries along with a few figures and a ring collection set including some special editions in there. Following that, we've got our X-Men shelf. It's got some X-Force on the first shelf, followed by X-Factor, and both have a few extra characters added in that I just needed another space to put them, but they seem to fit. Then we've got our Flash family, as well as the random DC figures in the bottom of the shelf. And following that, we've got a few figures on the wall there from Marvel Legends. There's a space left there intentionally for Quasar once that figure hits the US. Followed by another shelf of box figures with Alpha Flight and a few others in front of them, Colossus, and then a few other box figures, especially that Stan Lee down there. Here's my Star Wars area, and everything is MOC, as Hassel likes to kid me about, but I don't have any of these out of the package. Next up is Titanus, as well as a few random pieces and my X Factor 3.75 inch Marvel set. MPO1 Optimus Prime, still a classic despite all the improvements they made on various different versions throughout the first of my detolfs, and what you'll see in this one is there is an open space at the top and the bottom because I just got this one and just started building the set. But on the second shelf we've got our New Warriors set, and on the third would be the Marvel cosmic characters with a space left, and they stand for Quasar, of course. My second detolf that I've just started working on, G.I. Joe Classified, as well as a Thunder Megazord Legacy collection, and then I've got a couple of empty shelves at the bottom for future growth. And before I leave this room, I need to make note of the Iron Man figures on the wall over there. Nothing too spectacular. I've got a lot of room left to go, but I plan on putting Fantastic Four Retro in there as well. As we make our way down the hallway, you'll see some nice artwork. This one provided by Hassel, as well as another by Hassel. A Christmas present from Hassel a few years ago, actually, a Batman Meets the Shadow from 1940. Jerry the King Lawler autograph picture. James Marsters from Buffy and Angel. Some artwork of Angel from the show Angel. Some more artwork, 80s heroes. Several signed comics, X-Men by Fabian Nicieza. Spider-Man Cell from Spider-Man 3 movie. X-Men Alpha covering. Stan Lee signed. Let's see if we can get it into the picture. Stan Lee. Uncanny X-Men. A few figures mixed into here, as well as just because I was running out of space elsewhere, but Nightwing, Dr. Fate from Injustice. John Wesley Shipp, the 1990s Flash, signed picture, as well as his figure right next to it. Legion of Superheroes, Paul Levitz, and X-Men Omega. And we'll make our way around the living room a little bit here. There's some Power Rangers artwork on the wall, and a few Gundams that I built, as well as, hey, I'm a DVD collector as well. Cape Comic Con, Jason Lee Scott print that was a special for that convention where he was at, as well as a signed autograph picture by him. Moving along, we also have some more DVDs down here. Let's not forget those. Lightsaber hilt, which was actually another Christmas present from Hassel. And then as we look up here, my Power Rangers weapon set, the Red Ranger sword, Gold Ranger staff, Saba the Tiger Saber, Dragon Dagger, Morpher from the new Hasbro line. The rest of those are Legacy Collection from Bandai. Oh no, more DVDs. As well as a few Power Ranger collectibles again over here. These were from collection from Bandai, and then artwork from Hasbro this past year. Let's step around to this side and we'll get a picture of the some more Power Ranger collection helmets, SH figure arts, a few of the more of the weapons like the Blade Blaster. I've got both communicators, the green and white, as well as the regular. A boxed Thunder Megazord to go along with the one in the back that you saw earlier. White Tiger Zord. A couple more SH figure arts. I have all the Red Ranger figure arts they've made except for the Gokai Red. So if anybody out there has one, I'll gladly take one. Black and gold Megazords, as well as the Zeonizer, and both the Ninjetti and the Dino Power Coin set. And as I said earlier, like I like to do themes, so here let's move along with more of the Power Rangers themes, and let's see if I can zone this out and get the entire wall. This wall is all Legacy Collection from Bandai, along with a White Ranger art print and a signed Jason David Frank photo. Under those, you'll see I've started my Lightning Collection from Hasbro Draken. I've got the Gold and Red Ranger set. Many of the box single figures. If you move to the next, there is some space here because I'm going to be adding some more here soon. But the SPD Omega Ranger, and look, more of the box sets, single packs. Then we get into the monsters, as well as the double packs on the bottom down there. And sorry, I know the camera's a little close, but due to constraints of furniture in the way, best I can do. And keeping with the same theme, here's some Legacy Ninja Megazords, as well as a Legacy White Ranger Morpher, the Psycho Ranger 5-pack, and two more of the Psycho Rangers individually packed. There is an open shelf, but that's because there's more Power Rangers on the way to fill up in these shelves. And because I ran out of space elsewhere, G.I. Joe Breaker from the new Classified line. And as we're nearing the end of the run here, we've got some DC action figures. Most of them are just, a few collectibles here and there that I saw that I liked, or characters I really like Firestorm, Aquaman. We also have a few He-Man in there, and I put the He-Man with the DC just because a lot of times you see them run that property as well in their comics. Zooming out a little bit, we've got our Green Lantern wall, or half of a wall anyway. Very big collector of Green Lantern. One of my favorites. I've got a couple of Ethan Van Sciver signed pieces up there. The 0 Hour book is actually a very special one. It was signed by Martin Nodell, the artist on the original Green Lantern, Alan Scott. So he drew that lantern and signed it as well. All the figures around. Under that set, we can see we've got another Green Lantern box set, my Holiday He-Man, which is a favorite that my son gave to me last year. He-Man versus Superman. A few other special figures, some more He-Man down here, and it's from Super 7 and Mattel. Holiday He-Man actually in the package because I have one loose and one in the pack. Sinestro and Hal Jordan, Blackest Night, White Lantern figure exclusives. As you see, they're limited in 1 of 1,500 and 1 of 3,000 on them individually. Getting down into our Thundercats section, and yes, it is a little bare, but more to come there as they continue to produce. Some G1 Transformers. Just needed a small shelf to put some of those on that I still had from when I was a kid. My next bit of wall space may run into my DTOS a little bit, but this is my Marvel Legends X-Men area. See the vintage collection up top with one gamut coming down a little bit. Then a few more modern figures, a few that I've collected. Mostly just my favorites, you know, the Summers Clan, Beast, which I get called a lot, Cannonball and Sunspot, a few others. I do have my Spider-Man up there as well, my 2099 Retro, my Scarlet Spider, Firestar mixed in there just because of Spider-Man and his amazing friends. The case under that is a small bookshelf with G.I. Joe Classified on the top level, all still MOC. I'm only collecting the Joes from the line. I've always been just a fan of the Heroes. I'm getting the Joes from that line MOC, and then just a few favorites loose, as you saw previously with Flint, Duke, Snake Eyes, Beachhead. Barbecue is on the way, just shipped today. And then we've also got a few other items down here, some Transformers, mostly a couple studio series of Hot Rod and Jazz, but most of it is the crossover figures they're doing. The Top Gun, I've got the Blackbird from X-Men, Ecto-1, you see the Gigawatt down there, and then the reissue Hot Rod. I also have the Jurassic Park set on the way, but I see it was delayed until December, so I've got to rearrange this a little bit to fit that one in when it shows up. And lastly, this is probably one of the nicest areas of my collection, one I've probably put the most effort into, while not necessarily every one of these is my favorite, but I do love the MP, the Transformer Masterpiece lines, and the third parties that go into them. So you see I've got a Hasbro Fort Max, then we go down into some masterpieces. At the bottom of this, these are a couple that are going to be moving to the details that I showed first. My Superpowers collection, I don't have but one villain with the Penguin, but I'm lacking only 4 of the heroes, having every member of the league that was in that. My G.I. Joe 25th anniversary, which will be moving to the back as well near my G.I. Joe Classifieds. And the remainder of this will be MP and a few Power Rangers, but more of my MP collection. The bottom shelf is a little barren, but I've got one figure that I'm going to unbox for you guys today that I just got in, and then I'm waiting on several others that don't come out till early next year. One of my favorite MPs, my Superion by Zeta Toys. Excellent piece. They really know how to build a combiner. Some more masterpieces and third party. The third party Dinobots are actually a mixture of both Fans Toys and Gigapower, both of which did good sets. Except for Grimlock, he is actually a regular Takara told me, and I probably need to switch him out to make him match up size wise, but I already had him, and they go for expensive prices. Moving along, I promise we're almost done here. We're on number 4 of 6 DTOFs here. Omega Supreme, which is the Hasbro release. More of my masterpieces. I will be replacing that MP10 Optimus Prime there with a Transform Element version pretty soon, which is a more cartoon accurate one, and that MP10 will be joining the back shelf with the MP1 because I try to keep track of all those together to show the history. Some more Season 1 and Season 2. And some mini bots. Just for reference, I've been collecting just G1 of the masterpieces and mostly sticking to Season 1, 2, and 3, but I did get into the Junior Headmasters as well just because they were not terribly overpriced, but fit my collection well. And you're probably wondering what this one small guy is doing here alone. This is Streetwise from the Defense Source set that is coming out by X-Transbots. I've just kind of got him there as a placeholder until the rest of Defense Source shows up. Groove is supposed to be out by the end of this year, so 2 out of 5 down. And the remainder of these details are going to be filled with Power Rangers. This is my Forever Red collection. Got the minis from Japan that were imported in. And then I've got the static statues of the 15-year anniversary Red Rangers. Some original Power Ranger Zords from the 1990s, the Megazord, the Ninja Zord, and Dragon Zord. More original Zords from the 90s. And all of these are original Zords except for the one in the front, which is the Legacy White Tiger Zord, but I was out of spaces to move him. But looking at moving him to the back along with the Legacy Thunder Megazord back there and clearing up some space here with the originals. And we're on to the last shelf, starting off with Metroplex to round out some more Transformer Titans. Original Mighty Morphin Power Ranger collection. You can't see it on these, but the black, pink, yellow, and blue Rangers are signed by actors who played those characters. Original ones on all of them except for the pink one, which was Catherine Sutherland, who played Cat, the second Pink Ranger. Small helmets, original Morpher coins, Zeonizer, Blade Blaster, as well as a kind of a mini Shogun Zord model I built. Get into some original weapons with the Saba, the Golden Staff, a couple of really cool shot glasses, a cool Green Ranger, and the original Dragon Dagger, as well as my coaster set, which has never come out of the box. See, even we keep those on MOC kids. And then the original power weapon, as well as a in-space morpher and the chest piece for the Dragon Zord that came with Titanus, just because I had nowhere else to put it. Well, hopefully you enjoyed that look at our collection. Again, not all of it is toys. We do talk a lot about toys, but we do have other things out there. And, you know, in that same vein, I think we can get into our full nerd out section here, which is where we ask each other random questions that we don't share these questions beforehand. This is a chance for us to spontaneously ask and answer just some interesting questions. And House, if you don't mind me going first today, I'll throw in there first.
Yeah, I went first last week, brother. It's your turn.
So I've got a two-part question because I couldn't decide between these two. I was torn. They're short answers, but what would you say out of everything that you have in your collection today is the crown jewel of your collection? And then the second question is, what is your white whale? What is the one thing that you don't have that you would give anything to have if you could find it and could afford it and get it right away?
Oh, you got me thinking, brother. Yeah. Ooh, you know what? I'm gonna have to say, crown jewel of my collection is gonna be a two-parter, so to speak. Value wise, would probably have to be my undisputed championship that has the Four Horsemen autograph, Bobby Lashley, Killer Bees, Nasty Boys, Lance Russell, Abdullah the Butcher. I mean, various other autographs from that weekend. Harley Race has signed it. I mean, plethora of legends. Value wise, it would probably have to be that, but probably the piece that meant the most when I finally got it, and it's not as nostalgic as you would think, honestly. Earlier this year, I finally acquired a legit Winged Eagle championship. To me, I mean, as a wrestling fan, and I'm as big a nerd as I am, I've probably been a wrestling fan just as much or longer. You know, watching my grandparents growing up and whatnot. So when I got that Winged Eagle, and you know, you talking Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, Bret the Hitman Hart, three of the greatest of all time, and that was the belt that's synonymous with them. And even Ultimate Warrior. I mean, as a kid, I loved Ultimate Warrior, and I mean, it's easy to. No, he wasn't throwing a clinic, but that belt there, when I got it, I'm not gonna lie, dude. I have posed with it a few times. Like, my girlfriend hates to see me pick it up because she knows I'm fixing to strut around for a little while with it. So, yeah, those there will probably be my go-to as far as what's most precious to me.
So before you
let me think.
Well, before you answer that, and while you're thinking about it, let me throw something out on your crown jewels. For one, that Winged Eagle belt is extremely nice looking. From what I've seen of it, I have not seen it in person yet, but everything I've seen is nice. And that other belt, as nice as it is, I hate that son of a bitching thing. Because when you first bought it, and we were at an event, you're like, damn, this thing's heavy. Here, hold this for a while. You never took it back.
That was the trick. It's like, hey, hold this for a minute.
Yeah, as light as that thing might be, after a few hours of holding it on your shoulder or whatever, you're like, fuck, this thing's terrible. I take this damn thing back.
Hey, once I bought this house, I mounted it to the wall, and it hasn't come down since. It's
I don't blame you. I don't blame you. We were at a 3-hour Monday Night Raw when you bought that thing before the show started, and we watched an hour before, and we had an hour afterwards for other signings and stuff. And god dang, I hated that thing by that point in time because you held it for like 10 minutes. You're like, this is getting old.
Well, I done paid for it by that point. So I'm done with it. It didn't gain its momentum to me until I started getting autographs on it. So yeah.
Yeah, I just gotta give you a hard time because I remember toting that thing around.
Why? Well, why is dude? I think my white whale would honestly be a 4-player Ninja Turtle arcade from back in the day. I mean, I've got a legit arcade of Marvel superheroes, and I would love to have right beside it either a 4-player Ninja Turtles old school game or NBA Jam 4-player. One of those two. That would be my 2 white wheels.
Both of those are good. I thought you were gonna say the 4-player X-Men game.
This close, brother. This close. Oh man, that is a.
Do you remember playing that? The two of us playing that at Food Line.
Anytime.
That and Ninja Turtles. And I
probably could have bought it.
I was so upset when they changed out the Ninja Turtles, the first one, which is the one I think you're talking about, where Rocksteady comes up at one point with a little drill through the ground. When they changed it out for Turtles in Time,
he pops out, starts kicking ass, and it's like, yeah, here it goes.
When they changed it out for Turtles in Time, and I was like, this is not as fun as the first one. It's still fun. I want to play, but I missed the first one.
But that was more of a Super Nintendo enjoyer versus the arcade enjoyer.
Yeah, that's fair.
So I flip it back to you. Here's your go.
As much as I tout about my masterpieces and some of my Power Ranger prop weapons and stuff I have, probably the biggest thing that I would say is crown jewel is and I'm probably in the same boat as you, as I have to give it a two-way tie. I have a Green Lantern ring set that was a Planet Krypton one, and it was a limited edition. They were all metal made rings, and it was you had Kyle's ring, you had Alan Scott's ring, you had Sinestro's first yellow one in there. That's a really nostalgic and important piece to me. But a piece that I acquired recently is one that I always wanted, which is the full-size Green Lantern power battery prop with the ring and it lights up and stuff. And I'm torn between the two of those as my favorite. But if I had to give up everything else, and if I had to sell everything else off, that'd probably be the two that I would fight tooth and nail to the death to keep.
And that battery is extremely nice, and the pictures I've seen that you showed me, extremely nice.
And the yellow one was just as nice. The only difference really between them is the handle on them, but and the color, obviously. But they are nice. And for what I paid for them, I only hesitated on getting them because when they first came out, I just couldn't do it at the time. My son was on the way, and it was just too much money at the time. And aftermarket,
let's be fair.
Back
during that time, collectors wasn't dropping $200-$300 on things as much as prevalent.
No. Yeah.
So what's your white whale, Monster? What keeps Monster awake at night saying, I need this?
Out of everything I have, the only thing I don't have in my collection, which is what makes this the white whale for me, is a championship belt. And I don't know if I want. I like the some of the different tag team ones, especially ones like some of the Road Warriors, some of them carried. And I have always liked the classic Intercontinental belt, the one that like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and them had. And whether it was the white strap or the black strap, I always liked that belt.
Yeah.
And I want to get one of those, and they're not terribly overpriced or anything. I just haven't seen one that, to me, the quality of it meets the price point they're asking for it at this time. And I won't say neither one's
JB
bad.
Toys on Instagram, he makes and sells belts. He does a really good job of quality and pricing.
And that may be what I'd look into. I have not bought one, but that's probably my white whale, is just having a championship belt of some sort to put it with it, because that's the only thing I really don't have is something from I don't really collect wrestling figures, and as much as I love wrestling, I've never collected the figures or anything like that. But I do want a belt, and I just don't have one yet.
Okay.
So, what's your question for
My
this week?
turn. I kind of I kept trying to think of something. I couldn't really think of much. I mean, we talked so much, here and there, and it was like we bounce ideas off of each other all week long anyway. So, I guess my question this week is: say you were a startup company and you could produce figures along the lines of Super Seven, because they just, let's face it, them and Hasbro have some of the best quality out here right now. What line would you want to acquire that isn't already on the shelves and put out here?
Ooh, I actually have a quick answer to that. I'd pick Mask.
You know what? I knew you was going to say that.
Now, what I'd want to do though would be I don't think I'd do them at a 7-inch and try to do the vehicles because it would be so expensive. I'd probably do them in a 3 3/4 inch for the figure, but try to make it as detailed as possible. Like the 25th anniversary of Joe's, but then make the vehicles very detailed and make them size appropriate for those. That would probably be what I'd go with. I mean, I have a secondary in mind, but that's my number one.
You know what? I knew you was going to say that. So, thankfully, I have a backup, because that was going to be my answer as well. Because we think so much alike. But I think I would like to do Cops.
That was my secondary.
Fighting crime in a future time.
that
That right
was
there. I mean, those figures were a little ahead of their time, honestly.
They were. That was a great show as well. But I love those, and that was actually my secondary. Because I said if I'm not going to do Mask, I would be doing Cops. And my favorite vehicle as a kid was actually a Cops vehicle, and I never got to buy it because I only saw it on the shelf one time as a kid, and that was the helicopter they had where one side was red and one was blue with the cockpit.
Yes.
It was just the coolest looking helicopter to me. I was like, I need that, and I never got it. I had the guy that came with it, but I never had the vehicle itself.
As cool as that was, I can't give it the coolest helicopter, because I'm going to have to say the coolest helicopter to me was the Venom helicopter. The big guy from Venom had.
Oh,
That
Miles
turned into
Mayhem.
the helicopter to jet type deal. I mean, that was like really fucking neat to me back in the day.
Yeah, that was a neat one. I just always liked that Cops one. I mean, there was certain, I can look at every property, pick out one vehicle or something that I thought was, the greatest if they had one in it. But for me, that was my favorite Cops one. And then, I also still like, I don't remember what it was called now, but it was the armored looking car looking one, that had where it opened up upward. I had it as a kid, but it was really cool.
Super 7 needs to be listening, because this is, they probably have our shit bugged anyways, and that's going to be the next toy lines they'll announce next week now. So.
Well, and Mask is an easy property probably for them to get into, because if they wanted to, because they have so much of a deal with Hasbro, and that's who owns the property now, because it was owned by Kenner, and they purchased everything Kenner owned, which is why you got in the 25th anniversary G.I. Joes, you got a Matt Tracker. Awesome.
That's one I really wanted to open and take on card, and didn't. And I kind of like, ugh.
I opened him. I actually sold all my own card 25th anniversary ones. Made a pretty good profit off of them, but the ones I have open are still down there. I'm actually looking at them right now. They'll be moving display cases they're in just to go along with my classified figures, but they're right in front of me at the moment.
Gotcha. Well, with that being said, talking about figures meant on card, this
Yeah.
is the part of the show where you're fixing to breathe very uncomfortable, G. This is the part where you get to unbox something.
Yeah, and so I will give a caveat first that I actually had to cut the tape because this is an import and it was coming from China, and I wanted to make sure it was all in here. Now, I did not break the plastic bubble that's in, but and I know this background's going to mess with it a little bit, but this is a Bad Cube Grump, which is their masterpiece take on Gears from Transformers Generation 1. As I said, the tape is cut, but I haven't taken it out, so let's see if I can get him out of here. Oh, don't lose all the stuff. So he's still in the plastic tray, as I said, and it's still taped. Freaking goddamn, they tape these things tight. So I have not had the opportunity. Oh, I'm losing stuff. Have not had the opportunity to transform him or anything, and he does come in fully robot mode. But let's see if I can get everything in here. Just
Tell me that don't just feel amazing to you, Monster. Come on now.
hey, I opened.
Something about taking them out of there just gives you that sense of 10-year-old kid again.
And to be fair, I open these every time I get one. But yes, I get really excited to open up a Marvel Legends stuff when I get one that I'm unboxing. But again, I don't unbox too many of them. You'll see, as you saw in the videos, there are some that are, but it's always fun to take them out and pose them and stuff. I'm losing stuff, as you can hear me dropping stuff everywhere. But
yeah, I hear shit dropping left and right.
So let's kick it to the side, and I'll let you go. What are you going to unbox, sir?
You know what? I started to go the lazy route because, I showed everybody the hyper-real Luke Skywalker last week. And, part of me was like, well, I'm going to open this figure. Why not do it on video? But I feel like I was cheating our fans at this point. I'm not going to cheat our fans. I'm going to open something that I have had zero intentions of opening. So, what I have decided to get is the DC Icons.
Oh, I have that one on my wall.
I've had this figure for a couple years now. He's been one of my favorites in the box. I've had him displayed proudly on the wall here. So I figure I'm not going to cheat our fans. I'm going to open something, and it still has a tape because I have to have a knife for this. So with that being said, wow, he is in the little bubble pretty damn good. Crashing and you got the rubber band in there.
Oh yeah, they're good at packaging their stuff secure. Well, they were when they were still in business.
They are. I'm going to be honest. He looks really great out of the box. He is very detailed. He is in the combination of the new 52 versus reborn, or however you want to say it, rebirth style. Yeah. But he looks really great. He comes with your little nuclear blast, and he comes with some glowing hands as well that I can change out and put on there if I want to give him the nuclear man hands and so forth and so on. But he's got great mobility. He looks really good. Before this, one of the DC Direct Firestorms was one of my favorite figures. I think I got it probably around the early to mid 2000s, and he's been on my shelf ever since. So this one right here, it has a look and feel that looks just as good as a modern update, and I'm pretty satisfied with him. His joints are a little looser than what I would care for, considering he's been in the shelf all this time. The arms are pretty tight, but the legs are a little wonky.
The only thing that I never cared for, and I found over time, and at the time I didn't think much about it, as DC Collectibles was putting out more and more of those figures, they just didn't have a great posability to them. They didn't have as much articulation. They're pretty much, they're going to stand there in the A-frame or maybe arms up or something, and that's about the extent of what you're going to get.
They went the route of NECA, and they sacrificed points of articulation for
sculpt.
Look.
Yeah.
And sculpt, which is great for your average collector that's going to bust it out of the box and put it in one pose on the shelf, never to touch again, or leave it in the box and it looks amazing. Not so much for your collector that actually kind of tries to pose them up really good, like to where you get the flight stands.
Yeah.
And you have amazing displays, like you've got your Transformers, your Marvel Legends, so forth and so on, your Rangers on flight stands and risers and whatnot. And they look truly amazing. They're some of these figures, like what you're talking about there, they're a little harder to get in that what you want.
Yeah, and you know, even the ones that I have and that I've played with a lot of time over time about trying to get a better posability and better poses and stuff out of them, but I still can't say that I'm on par with all those who build their own, you know, dioramas and all that, because even those things get to be where, yeah, this looks like a scene out of a book or something. I'm just not that good, and I'm too lazy to put
I'm
that
not
much energy
creative enough
into
to
it.
make one of
Yeah,
those
that
or
too.
skilled enough paint wise, but they look amazing. And if you buy one, they're ridiculously cost.
Yeah,
I would like to do one horror wise, I guess, and maybe open a few of my NECAs. But you could drop $500 really fast and not be bought much of anything. You know, something
yeah.
like, you know what I'm saying, for two figures.
Yeah, and that's why I don't get into it. But I try to do the poses at least, but I'm not getting into the dioramas. I might later on, but at this point, if I'm still collecting, I'm probably not going to. But with that being said, I think unless you had any closing thoughts or anything you wanted to touch on, I think that was majority of our topics for the week. Appreciate everybody sticking around listening to it. But I think that brings our episode today to a close. If you enjoyed this video or any of our other content, give us a like, subscribe, or comment, and then join us next time because we're going to be talking about all things cartoons. Until then, live nerdy and keep everything mint on card.
Dig it.